Project Shadow was a military experiment in the world of Sonic Adventure 2 and Shadow the Hedgehog, which aimed to uncover the secrets of immortality. 2 immortal beings were created as a result of this operation, the Bio-Lizard and Shadow the Hedgehog. And what I'd like to know is, how did they get from lizard to hedgehog in their quest for immortality? Like, the lizard is probably a proof of concept. We did it, here's an immortal creature. And Shadow is the actual design, but that does raise the question, why a hedgehog? You might think he was modeled after Sonic, de facto god of Mobius and Earth when he gets there. But if my Sonic lore is accurate, and please, for the love of all that is good, do not quote me on my knowledge of Sonic lore, the Sonic was born after Shadow. Shadow was not modeled on Sonic, but neither was Sonic modeled on Shadow. Probably. Shadow was actually created from alien DNA, through some twist of events. That alien did not look like a hedgehog. Hello world, my name is Atticus, and welcome to the rabbit hole, or hedgehog hole in this case. Goodness, there's a lot to unpack before we can get to Immortal Hedgehog. Let's start with the Bio-Lizard. Wait, no, actually, we have to start with immortality. Immortality is, of course, an inability to die. Sometimes that's for any cause of death, but it always applies to aging. An immortal being cannot die of old age. Usually it comes bundled with eternal youth, or at least an end to appearing to grow older, like how a vampire always looks the age they were when they became a vampire. But not always, like if your immortality comes from a pernicious genie or a petty god, like the Cumaean Sibyl who kept shrinking in her old age until the only thing left was her voice. Immortality, however, is not limited to the realm of fiction. There are several organisms on Earth that are immortal, unburdened by the weight of time. Most of them are single-celled organisms and are actually only immortal in ideal growing conditions. Though I guess you could say they're prone to sickness in less ideal environments, and that's what does them in. It's also really just that they're endlessly able to clone themselves, which throws some existential wrenches into their immortality. More exciting is the Hydra, the real one. While not single-celled, they're still incredibly tiny freshwater monsters, a tube with face arms. Just another in an ever-growing list of why you should never be near water, ever. There's a lot interesting about these creatures, but the most interesting, and the cause of their name, is their incredible regenerative ability. When any piece of a Hydra is severed, it can, and will, grow back. If one is cut in half, both halves will regrow, and now you've got 2 Hydras. They get into aquariums and are absolute pests. They also do not age and are biologically immortal. Somehow, no matter how often their cells divide, their DNA does not degrade, or if it does, they're able to repair it. The fact that they reproduce asexually seems to be a major component of their immortality. That and the simplicity of their being. They have no brain or muscles. In normal conditions, they just kind of grow a new Hydra out of the side of their body. Once fully grown, it detaches and now there are 2 of them. The stem cells used to reproduce can also be used to repair any other cells that need it. They can also, in times of crisis, reproduce sexually. Some Hydras release free-swimming gametes into the water to fertilize eggs made by other Hydras. Some Hydras do both, and at least one Hydra begins to age once this happens. Hydras are fascinating creatures, and I wholly understand why scientists study them so much. But this is a Sonic lore video, and I fear we've gone wildly off track. So let's look at a less interesting immortal creature and see how we get to Bio-Lizard. So there's this jellyfish that ages backwards. The immortal jellyfish, as it's called, has 3 life stages. A little larva floating in the ocean, a colony of polyps attached to the sea floor, and the jellyfish we all know and love. The jellyfish stage, also known as the Medusa stage, is the adult stage. They hunt other jellyfish and are general menaces, a growing pattern among the immortal. If the Medusa is exposed to environmental stress, physical assault, or just gets old or sick, it can revert to the polyp stage. As a polyp, it attaches to the seafloor, becomes a colony of itself, and prints Medusae. Again, we see genetically identical clones, which does again raise the existential question. Is it one continuous being as conscious as a jellyfish can be, or are they just identical octuplets? The transdifferentiation that happens, which tells all the jellyfish cells to become polyp cells, is incredibly interesting, and another point of interest for aging research, which means Project Shadow probably at least looked into it. Our last immortal is a flatworm. They have incredible regenerative ability. A cut-off piece of a flatworm as small as 1/279th of the original organism can regenerate back to a full flatworm. They also have an incredible memory, able to perform long-term memory retrieval, even after regenerating a head. I feel like I should be more impressed by the flatworm, but I'm still recovering from the Hydra and Medusa. There is an honorable mention for immortal creatures in the lobster, our largest animal yet. Lobsters are not immortal, but it's only tangentially aging that causes their death. Lobsters do not seem to suffer aging throughout their lifespan. They remain fertile, they do not slow down, and they do not grow weak. But lobsters do need to molt their shells. This lets them grow and replace any part that may have been damaged. As they get bigger, however, the energy it takes to molt also grows, until they get to a point where if they molted, they would die of exhaustion. So they don't do that. But without molting their shell, they can become damaged or infected or just fall apart, and that will also lead to their death. So those are all of our immortals, at least the ones that I know of. None of them are anywhere close to Giant Lizard, let alone Hedgehog. The Bio-Lizard was modeled after a salamander, selected for immortality due to already having regenerative properties, though not quite as incredible as a Hydra or Flatworm. Gerald Robotnik added a secret ingredient in the form of a chaos control organ. Chaos control being the ability to manipulate space and time via Chaos Emeralds, presumably to aid its innate regenerative properties, either speeding it up or undoing damage entirely. The Bio-Lizard was mostly successful. It gained biological immortality, among other neat powers like lasers. Despite all the success with the Bio-Lizard, its body couldn't sustain itself. It grew far too big, and manipulating the fabric of reality takes a lot of energy, so the Bio-Lizard had to live hooked up to life support that used crystallized chaos energy. Because again, manipulating both space and time. It also became unmanageable. At the core of the Bio-Lizard's being, it is a giant salamander, and I cannot stress this enough, possessed the power to manipulate the very fabric of reality. The government declared Gerald Robotnik a threat to humanity and tried to erase everything related to Project Shadow, but not before he took another crack at the creation of the ultimate life form. Addressing the problem seen with the Bio-Lizard and adding in the DNA of a helpful alien that Gerald met named Black Doom in exchange for all 7 Chaos Emeralds in 50 years, basically free. The alien DNA likely helped with the growing out of control and being unable to maintain itself. And Shadow ended up a hedgehog because they're smarter than salamanders, is my best guess. As far as I can tell, the game does not answer why Shadow is a hedgehog. Sonic is 15 years old, whereas Shadow is 50, so Shadow couldn't have been modeled after Sonic. And shortly after being created, Shadow was imprisoned on Prison Island and held in stasis, so very unlikely that Shadow was secretly Sonic's dad. By all accounts, it's a coincidence that Sonic and Shadow are so physically similar as to be mistaken for each other early in Sonic Adventure 2. But I do have one theory. Shadow is the ultimate life form, an immortal being born from science gone too far and also an alien. Sonic, therefore, is also an ultimate life form, one more naturally occurring. He is, as we know, as a god in the world of Sonic, both venerated and feared to the extent that human civilization has been remade into a playground to keep Sonic happy and merciful. Sonic is God, and the ultimate life form, the culmination of all sentient creatures, his shadow. I have been Atticus, and thank you for participating.